Check, 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 check. I can hear myself. Remember, we used to have that problem all the time?
Yeah.
Oof.
Try it again.
Check, check, check. Good. 3, 2. On today's show, we're diving deep into Dwight Powell at the 5.
Starter Dwight Powell again. Is Rick back or is Jason Kidd here?
We'll hear from Dwight Powell, Tim Hardaway Jr., and Frank Ntilikina from some of our interviews. The best answers for them on today's Locked On Mavs.
Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer at Mavs.com. The Thursday thought, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Day 2 of camp is completed. You're probably listening to this on Thursday morning, which is day 3 of camp.
Mavs taking a day off today.
Yes. Mavs taking a day off, and just to see, I tweeted out a picture, I guess last night on Wednesday night, of it was so cool seeing footage of Tyson Chandler in action with Moses Brown, with Willie Cauley-Stein, had a lot of footage of him today, and I just love Tyson being there, man. I'm a sucker for Tyson. He's the best. He's the best to talk to. And yeah, I just love that guy. And what a cool opportunity for Moses Brown and these guys to get to learn from him. So yeah, day 2 of camp completed.
Gotta love it. Lots of news today. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. Remember, Locked On Mavs is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where all of our Media Day interviews are available right now. A couple of them getting to 2,000 views. Moses Brown almost at 4,000 views. Appreciate everybody that's consuming that. We also hit a pretty big milestone for us. 1 million views on YouTube since we started. We started in April.
Yeah, that's insane.
Blowing me away. And I got a little sappy today, and I was just like, man, I just appreciate everybody that has listened to us, that has stuck with us, that has jumped along in this ride. Anybody that listens, consistently, you're a member of the Raccoon Squad. Some of you have been listening since day 1. We took over in May 2017 of this podcast, and just hitting that milestone on YouTube so quickly really just made me really appreciate everybody that listens to this show. So thanks again for making Locked On Mavs part of your podcast rotation, your content listening and watching rotation.
And for sharing it for so much. I mean, so many of you guys have shared this pod with friends and family and couples who I know a couple who watches our YouTube channel in the morning before they go to work, and the stories we've heard from literally countries around the world. It's been really cool. So super big thank you.
Shout out to everybody in Slovenia. You guys are really packing those numbers in. Appreciate you guys watching and listening. All right, let's get into some of the news from camp today. The big news that's been kind of circulating. It's circulating.
Wow. What a word.
Reciprocate. I don't know what word I was trying to find. The news that's been going around. KP is going to start at the 4, at the power forward position, and we learned today that Dwight Powell is going to be starting at the 5, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was like, oh dang, this is huge news. But that happened a lot. That's been happening ever since KP has been playing. Almost all of, not last season, but the year before, was KP and Dwight starting. And so it's this is not a new concept, but it seems new because it's Jason Kidd making this decision.
Yeah, it's like The Masked Singer, sing and stuff you're trying to figure out, and then the hat comes off. Maybe Kid's mask is going to come off, and it's going to be Rick being like, hey guys, I just flew in on my plane.
Oh man.
But no, kind of surprising just a little bit. There's a little, you just got to figure out who's, one of Reggie, Dorian, Tim is going to come off the bench. There's a likelihood that all 5 starters are were on the team last year. Luka,
I mean, yeah,
Luka, Tim, Dorian,
Dwight, and KP are probably going to be the starters. Like they're all we bring in new players, and yet those are the guys starting again.
Yeah, in my initial thought to it, obviously offense wise, like KP can shoot. Dwight's the best rim roller on the team. He's one of the best rolling big men in the league. So I get like in his chemistry with Luka is amazing. My mind just went to defense, and
of course
I'm questioning just a little bit of like how, and I'm really curious now how good they can be defensively with both of those guys on the floor. I joked with you before I looked at their numbers last season, small sample size, both of them on the floor together, just 121 minutes on the season. Once again, small sample size.
That's real small, yeah.
The defensive rating was 136.9.
That's not good.
Not that good. So I'm curious. I mean, Jason Kidd has been similar to Rick last year, but really making a point of saying defense. Reggie Bullock said the goal for the season is to be a top 10 defense. Like they're making an emphasis on defense. So I'm really curious how they're going to make Dwight KP starting lineup at least, a really good defensive team. So.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like that's a thing that can really happen.
Unless because obviously one of those guys have to guard, a 4. And if is KP back to being healthy, young KP that can move laterally better, that is a little bit more mobile than what we've seen of him the last time we see him play. So hopefully that's the case. Like that's what we've heard all offseason about how he's healthy. So I'm really curious. I'm anxious to see it in action.
Yeah, I am anxious as well. Okay, I thought that this was a little bit better. If you go back to 2019-20, so not last year, but the year before, cut short due to COVID, but a pretty normal year up what these numbers are going to show. Dwight and KP together on the court, according to Cleaning the Glass, had a 105.9 or 105.8 defensive rating. That's really good. That's like what the Knicks had this past year. So it is possible. There's ways that they can do it. They played most of the time with Dorian, Luka, and Tim Hardaway. They had a defensive rating of 109.0, so not 105.8. It's not that good, but
105.3.
In my head when I was saying that
Kevin
number,
Gray?
Is Kevin here? Skin? Ben? They're gone.
No.
But it is possible. So we have a small sample size of them being awful last season, but the season before that we have a pretty decent sample size of them being really good together defensively. So I'm not sure.
Possible.
It is possible. They have it in them if they change the schemes up and whatever. So, and it is a whole new coaching staff, like whole new brand new coaching staff. Plus, I got my water. KP's coming into the season healthy for the first time. This is the first healthy offseason. So hopefully he'll be defending better, moving better. Tyson helping them with defense. All these things together, hopefully they can get back to that 2019-20 season number. Okay, one more news thing, and then I want to dive back into Dwight Powell starting at the 5. And we have some good answers from Dwight Powell from our interviews with him on Media Day about the way he's looking at this season, the way that he's looking at competition with bigs and stuff. And I thought he had some really good answers that we just want to share. But before we do that, one more newsy thing that came out. We saw, Tuesday night, I think we saw a post from Trey Burke that suggested that maybe he had not taken the vaccine. And Jason Kidd on Media Day said that the Mavericks were about 90%, which probably a number he just pulled out of whatever. But he knew that there was at least in pulling that number. Jason Kidd knew.
I don't think he pulled it out. I mean, I think he knows.
You think he went through and was like, all right, there's 20 players, and all right, there's 2 that aren't vaccinated, right? You think he?
I think so.
Went through, maybe. Okay, so
I want to think that he knows the vaccination status of each player.
I'm saying the number he pulled because he knew, all right, there's at least somebody that's not vaccinated, and it's Trey Burke, and maybe there's one more player if that 90% number is true. So he knew that. He knew that there were at least some that were not. And Trey Burke came out after training camp, spoke to the media, and confirmed that he is, taking his time, wanting to make a decision on his own, wanting to do more research on the vaccine before he takes it. So he has not taken the vaccine, according to his. If we're gonna connect the dots there with his answers, yeah. And so we can do a lot of speculating. Before we even knew this information, we didn't know at all his thoughts on vaccines or if he was vaccinated or anything when we were talking to him at Media Day. And even during that interview, I thought he might be a guy that's on that's on the outside looking in. When they bring in Frank Ntilikina, They have Jalen Brunson already. Like, they have a bunch of guys already. He seems to be kind of buried in this depth chart. We were asking him about his role, but he was already kind of the guy on the outside looking in. Maybe this is the deciding factor, but I don't even know if we can say that definitively.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, we just bring it up on the pod because that's obviously the biggest storyline in the NBA right now is, the vaccination status of, going on in the league and the league versus the PA right now. So, yeah, if you have a player, and now we got to see how that shakes out when they go on the road, and just, how does that play into, away team markets and just a lot of that stuff. So we'll see if there's any updates moving forward.
We'll see. That's something we're definitely going to be monitoring. And if he doesn't make the team, that's probably going to be a big story. And people will probably take it as he was not vaccinated, so they cut him and it's costing people jobs. I'm sure that will be a thing that comes out. But all right, coming up, let's hear from Dwight Powell about how he's approaching this season with all these bigs on the roster. And he apparently came out on top because he's going to be starting at 5. So we'll hear from Dwight Powell. But before we do, let me tell you about Sleeper. Sleeper Fantasy is a new site that you're going to want to use because they have fixed something in fantasy basketball. When you play fantasy basketball, it always comes down to, all right, you have to set your lineups, daily or weekly, and you have to set it up, and you're like, okay, well, one player plays 2 games this week and another player plays 4 games. And so maybe that one guy will not average as many points each game, but will play more games. So I'll just play the guy that plays more games. That doesn't seem fair. So Sleeper released a brand new way of playing fantasy basketball. It's called Game Pick, and it's only available on Sleeper. In Game Pick, owners pick a single game per week for each starter to count towards their team's total score, ensuring an even number of games played between opponents. So go to Sleeper, download their app, and start a league with your friends today. Sleeper cracked the fantasy basketball code. If you play fantasy football, if you prefer building a weekly strategy versus daily busy work, Sleeper is the one for you. You just get to pick 1 game per player. So download the Sleeper app and start a league with your friends today. You will not be disappointed. Also, want to tell you about Sweatblock. Sweatblock is a product that we appreciate as bigger guys, and especially guys that live in Texas, where you walk outside sometimes and you're like, oh man, this shirt is not going to last the rest of the day because I'm about to sweat right through it. If you guys watched Monday Night Football with Peyton Manning, you saw that Eli Manning kept making fun of him every time he would raise his arms above his head because you could see the pit stains and the sweat marks underneath. Peyton Manning could use some Sweatblock there. It's doctor created, doctor recommended, works for up to 7 days per use. They're these wipes that you wipe under your underarms, and you get a dry shirt guarantee for 7 days under there. You don't have to worry about pit stains. You don't have to worry about what you're going to wear the next day. Sweatblock can help you with that. And right now, they're the #1 antiperspirant product on Amazon. There's so much stuff on Amazon. Go to sweatblock.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get 20% off if you use that promo code LOCKEDON. Or you can get it at Amazon and CVS for full price. But if you go to sweatblock.com, you get 20% off at sweatblock.com. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's get into some more media day comments. We've been talking about Dwight Powell. He's going to be starting for the Dallas Mavericks. And before we knew this information, we asked him what he thought about looking at this roster and seeing all these big guys. There's Porzingis, who we thought maybe would start at the 5. Maxey can technically, I guess, play 5 next to Porzingis. Willie Cauley-Stein, Moses Brown, Boban. Like, that's 5 guys, plus Dwight Powell. That's 6 guys right there that could possibly play center for the Mavericks. We asked him what he thought about this going into this competition, and this is what he had to say.
You look at this training camp roster, yourself, Boban, Moses, there's a lot of bigs. There's a lot of 5s if we want to classify into 5s, 4s, and all that. How are you approaching this training camp? How do you see that playing out with so many guys playing the same position that you do?
It's exciting. It's super exciting. We get a chance to compete against a bunch of different types of bigs. So I think that's going to prepare all of us for the season. I think the league is changing, and there's guys that can space the floor. There's still heavy rollers and guys that can play on the block. So to be able to go up against really all the different types of bigs every day in training camp and then throughout the year in practice, I think it's going to prepare us for what we have to face every single night and then in the playoffs even more so.
I like that he said the Mavericks have all the different types of bigs because it's really true. They do. They have Dwight Powell, who's your rim roller that's not necessarily a rim protector, but he can defend out in space a little bit, and he's definitely more mobile. You have Willie Cauley-Stein, who's the rim roller guy that can defend the rim. You have Boban, who's just huge, right?
Boban.
And it's just Boban, right? It's unique offensively. You have Moses Brown, who's the long guy that's the rebounder, like the crazy rebounder and roller. Yeah, and then you have Porzingis, who's the stretch 5, and you have Maxey, who's a little bit undersized, but he's also a stretch 5. And so they have all these different types of bigs, and that competition, wanting to go up against guys. I thought that was a good way to look at it.
It goes back to the quote we've used a million times. That time I was talking to Donnie, and I was talking to Donnie for a story for Mavs.com on the center position. And I was on the phone with him. I think it was going into the draft, maybe Dennis's draft. I was on the phone with him. I was on speakerphone. Me, Donnie, and another member of the front office.
That was that long ago, Dennis?
I think so. And we were talking about the center position, and he told me, he's like, Isaac, man, I view it like a bullpen. And it's like having all these different relievers that you bring in for these situations, and the big, the rim roller, the stretch 5, like all of that. And that always stuck with me. And we've mentioned on the pod so many times, and they still have it. And Dwight's talking about it as a strength. And yeah, just to see they can go up against all these different types of centers. It helps them prepare and practice and everything. Now we just got to see how it fits on the floor, obviously. And yeah, we'll see.
We have to see how it fits. Well, we've seen how it fits on the floor, though. We've already seen Dwight.
I mean, like how the minutes shake out.
And
like
KP, yeah. So I saw this from a lot of people on Twitter, is that Dwight and KP starting is fine, which I agree with. I think that it's fine. Offensively, it's great, actually, because we talked about this when KP first started playing for the Mavericks. KP is going to play the 4 on offense, and he's going to play the 5 on defense. And Dwight's going to play the 5 on offense and the 4 on defense and defend, like smaller guys that are more shifty, and Dwight can defend in space better than KP can. And theoretically, KP defends better at the rim than Dwight Powell does. Dwight Powell's not a rim protector. He's got short arms, and he's shorter than the average center, and KP is longer than the average center. And so they should complement each other well in that way. The thing that you don't want is Dwight and KP ending games together. That's what you don't. I don't think you want that in your closing lineup. That's when I hope that they will go to Luka, Dorian, Reggie Bullock, Tim Hardaway Jr., and KP. That's what I hope that they'll go to, with Dorian at the 4, Bullock at the 3, Tim Hardaway Jr., because then you have everybody can shoot the 3. You have, 2 guys that can defend pretty well on the perimeter, and hopefully Porzingis is a better rim protector this year, and he will, clean up everything behind them.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. And obviously it's situational based. If a team is closing with 2 bigs, then you could throw one out there. But I think
they got enough.
Yeah, you still have the. I'm just curious of like, hey, when do you play Dwight over Willie? Is Dwight always going to be over Willie? When do you play, Moses Brown over, something else like that? That's where I'm curious how that all shakes out. And I think this is one of I shared last week. I think the biggest battle I'm watching in camp is Trey Burke versus Frank Ntilikina versus Tyrell Terry. I want to see that 3-headed battle there, but I also want to see the bigs in preseason. I want to see, what if Moses Brown comes out and just kills it in the preseason? We're like, whoa, okay, Tyson Chandler started kit. Let's go.
which after our conversation with him, I really want, because I really liked him. Right?
Oh, he's so
that's the
fun.
problem with meeting guys. Like, obviously, we not trade anything. We loved meeting everybody and talking to them and interviewing them. But when you meet the guys, you're like, dang, I like this guy now. Now I hope he doesn't get traded for Dragic. Right?
Yes, I was gonna make a media comment as how it's different being in front of people and instead of just being behind a keyboard. But
you've already made it. Okay. This whole thing, Dwight Powell starting at the 5, Porzingis at the 4, depends on Porzingis. It depends on how he looks, because Porzingis is the guy that has huge ceiling. He's dynamic. He can do things. Dwight Powell is kind of what he is at this point. I think he brings a veteran presence now at this point in his career to the lineup. He brings an elite roller. He is, a leader on the floor, I think, and he brings a lot of stuff. But KP is the one that makes it really work and makes it to where the Mavericks can be a second round playoff team, a potential finals team. And we asked Tim Hardaway Jr. this question. If you remember the introductory press conference for Reggie Bullock, Moses Brown, and then Tim Hardaway Jr. was there for his re-signing. I asked Tim Hardaway Jr. about, what does KP have to do this offseason to get back to where he was, because Tim has played with KP for a long time now, right? Like 4 or 5 years almost he's played with KP. And so in our interview with him, at Media Day, I asked him another question about KP, and I loved his answer. I'm really interested to see what you think about it. You've been with Kristaps Porzingis for a long time. I talked to you about that at the presser, but you've seen all the stuff that people have said about him and all the conversation. What's something we don't understand about Kristaps Porzingis? It seems like we're misunderstanding him a lot in different.
This guy works. I mean, his body hasn't been as nice to him as we all would like it to be, but this guy is in the gym every day, in the weight room and on the court, putting in work. I mean every day. And that's what probably some people don't see behind the scenes, and they're not supposed to. But I mean, he's not able to show it unless he's healthy, and I know he wants to be the best possible player he can be, especially at that all-star level that he was in New York when I was there. So, kudos to him, man. He's been put in a hell of an off season, and I'm happy and excited to see what he brings to the table because I know what he can bring, but I want him to do it in front of the Dallas fans.
That last part right there, he talks all about the working. He's working hard. He works every day, but I wanted to see him do it in front of the Dallas fans. Isaac, do you think that I think this team will kind of come around Porzingis and sort of like really want to embrace him because of all the negativity that's happened around him, that people have, talked negatively about him, fans have talked negatively about him, and that the team will kind of like, the camaraderie will come around him basically and be like, we're rooting for this guy because we want to see him succeed in front of the Dallas fans, just like Tim Hardaway Jr. just said.
For sure. Yeah. I think so.
That's it.
Yeah. I think they want him to succeed. They, KP. They want that, and
I think it becomes a galvanizing thing for the team. Maybe the negativity. So hopefully we can. Yeah. Can we bully the Mavericks into like better chemistry around KP? Can we do that? Is that what we have done now as a fandom and as an internet culture? Maybe bullying works. Ben Simmons taking threes. All right, coming up, let's get into some more answers from Tim Hardaway Jr. We'll hear from Frank Ntilikina as well about his wanting a fresh start in Dallas. And he talks about draft night as well. I thought that was a really interesting answer. So we'll hear from both of them coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about rockauto.com. RockAuto.com is the way to go. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. They've been doing this. They've been in the game. They know what they're doing at this point. Their prices are reliably low and the same for every customer. They have everything you need. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Go check it out right now for yourself. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck, and you can write in Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box. They know that we sent you. Their catalog is remarkably easy to navigate. You can search by car, make, model, year, all that stuff. You can search by part number if you know exactly what you're trying to find to see if they have it, and they'll deliver everything straight to your door. You save money, you save time, and it's the best route to go. Again, go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Also, I want to tell you about betonline.ag. It's the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. They have everything, basically. Dallas Cowboys, home against the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. 5-point favorite for the Dallas Cowboys.
Just a 5-point favorite?
I get the 3-0 Carolina Panthers that are all of a sudden in first place. All of a sudden first place. You don't believe in the 3-0 Carolina Panthers?
No, I don't.
Dallas Cowboys, then, if you want to put some money on them, if you think that line is too low, they'll win by at least a touchdown, then boom, put some money on that. Use the promo code Locked On. You'll get a 50% welcome bonus to your first deposit. Do it. Check out BetOnline. There's all kinds of other stuff as well. Tennis, soccer, martial arts, golf, football, boxing, basketball, all kinds of basketball lines you can get into. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day, and we'll be back with you tomorrow with some more good stuff from Media Day. We're diving into some more interviews. We got a bunch of bigs. I think we're going to do a whole bunch of bigs interviews with Moses Brown. We loved that interview, so go check that out tomorrow. For your second listen, go to Locked On Fantasy Basketball with Josh Lloyd. He's been doing an amazing season preview for all your fantasy basketball takes that you need. All right, Tim Hardaway Jr. He came back to Dallas. He had other options on the table, and for Tim Hardaway Jr., he decided to come back, and this was his answer to us as to why he made that decision.
You, this past offseason, had all these offers, all these reports out there about how much money you did turn down to come back. Mm-hmm. Why are you back in Dallas? Why did you want to come back here?
I feel like we have a group of guys that get the job done. We're creating something special, and I feel like we have our core, and I wanted to be a part of it. It's probably the first time that I've stayed on the team for more than a couple of years now, and why leave? It felt like I created a niche, created a bond with these players and my teammates that I haven't really had since I was in Michigan. So it's very, very exciting. I'm very, very happy to be back here, be back home. I should say that, and
I like it.
And hopefully we could do big things here.
1, he calls it home. Gotta love that. 2, talking about the camaraderie and feeling that kind of camaraderie that he felt in college. One thing we noticed about all these players is they all feel like great guys, right? They all just seem like guys that you just want to hang out with.
The Tim Hardaway story will be fascinating to look back on. That no matter how you want to say it, like he was a dead weight contract to get KP, and that massive deal that New York gives him, the deal happens. It's like, all right, we took on Tim's money, and now, I mean, there's a chance that he's here for like 6-7 years, like, and
on Twitter we joked and called him Tax Hardaway Jr. at times.
Yeah, and
right.
Now,
like that's wild that he's come so far from that, and now sometimes we joke that he's the best player in the KP trade.
Yes, like all last year we all joked that it's like, oh, the Tim Hardaway trade, and how he went from the dead weight money, the tax for the KP trade, to now we're all such a big fan of him as a person, just his energy. Like he brings something to this team that no one else really brings. He is the better version of, Wes Matthews on offense, of like, the energy, passion stuff. Wes was better defensively, but still man, loved him. Love that he's on this team. He fits great with this team. He calls this place home. Like he's what you want as far as like an athlete, just like, man, like so passionate about, being here. And so happy for him.
The camaraderie and the chemistry stuff that we talked about yesterday, when we heard from Luka and Tyrell Terry, I think that's going to help this team a lot. Yeah. Yesterday, Tyrell Terry in the interview said that they couldn't do team dinners last year, right? And Tim still feels like this is a group of guys that he gets along with and feels more connected to, for the first time since he played in Michigan in college. And everybody that went to college knows that can be an extremely galvanizing, situation. You're with people, you live with people, you go to classes with people, you go to parties with people, like all that stuff. You're just with them all the time. And you just can't get that anywhere else. And he feels that in Dallas. And so I think that's going to be a huge thing for them this year. Okay. One of the best moments of our Tim Hardaway Jr. Interview was we were asking a bunch of players to name their top 5, like starting 5 all-time Mavericks, and we asked Moses Brown this question, and he gave an interesting answer. He put Tim on his team, and then we luckily had Moses Brown first and got to tell Tim about it. And this is first Moses's answer, and then Tim's reaction to being put on the all-time Mavs starting 5 by Moses Brown.
You just spoiled this like you did that Netflix TV show.
You look back at Mavs history, say you remember 2011. Could you name a Mavs all-time starting 5?
Who would be on your all-time starting 5?
I really like Tim Hardaway Jr.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't seen him miss in a couple days. My threes can rotate from, I just want somebody to be in there just to lock up and defend. So that could.
It's like a Finn or Sean Marion type.
Sean Marion is good. Moses Brown just came in here and said, hey, we asked him to name an all-time Mavs starting 5, and he said, I think I'll put Tim on there. I haven't seen Tim miss in a couple days.
He put you on that. Over over Finn.
What? I need to take him to dinner.
I know. I was like, man, what is
take my guy to dinner, man?
His face, though, the reaction to it is the best to me. He's like immediately surprised, and he's like, what? But
I wonder if he was caught off guard by how surprised I was. He's like, dang, this guy really thinks I shouldn't be on this thing. So I was like, he put you on that. Like, can you believe that?
Possibly. Possibly. But I love that. That was one of the funniest moments from our media day interviews. By the way, all of them available in full on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, okay. Here's the question though: could Tim get there?
No.
It's a hard list
you should
because
put Brunson's response to this too.
oh yeah, Brunson's response is much more harsh. Like Tim's not there. No, he's
Brunson
not.
just looks at the cameras like Tim's not there. You could tell him I said that.
The problem is with the Mavs starting five is you got so many good guards. Like Steve Nash. A lot of people miss Steve Nash. Jalen Brunson put him on there, but a lot of people miss that. Jason Kidd, Jet.
Yeah, I just don't
Luka
think he
can be
makes
a guard. Like, man, that's a hard list to crack right there. Like those are Hall of Famers.
Yeah, well, he's not cracking. He's not beating any of the point guards out. What would he have to do to pass Rowe, Mark Aguirre, Finn,
even like Derek Harper?
It's like I don't see it. I don't see him passing any of those guys. And does he have a chance to be like a Jason Terry? Possibly. That's the thing. Like if they go on a finals run over the next couple seasons and he's like that third scorer on the team and lighting it up and helps them win a round, and it's clearly like he's one of the main people of that. Like he could be viewed as a Jason Terry type.
All right, I think we're gonna get to Frank Ntilikina tomorrow. I feel like we'll push him
Frankie
to tomorrow.
Smokes.
Which we don't have enough for Frankie Smokes.
We gotta take that out. The French
Prince. Sorry, he doesn't like the nick. We actually asked him about the nickname Frankie Smokes, so you have to go watch the interview to see what he says about that. But we'll get to him tomorrow, and we'll hear from a bunch of players tomorrow. We'll take the best answers from some of those guys and talk about it tomorrow. But go listen to Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your number one first listen of the day, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.